Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something truly unexpected. Did you know Pope Francis could have lived like a billionaire? Private jets, priceless art, golden thrones, the works. But instead, he chose a life of shocking simplicity. So what exactly did he give up? And why? Stick around, because this story will change how you see power, money, and faith. This is one of the most controversial figures in the world, and this is the life he left behind before becoming Pope Francis. Before he was the Pope, he was known as Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, to a middle-class family. His father was a banker, and his mother worked as a telephone operator. But that all changed when he was just 8 years old. His father lost all of his money in the stock market, and they had to move to a small apartment. He had 2 older brothers, but tragically one of them died in an accident at age 30. This really upset him, especially because he was meant to be studying to become a priest. But he didn't feel worthy after his brother's death. So he decided to join the Jesuit order instead. He studied philosophy and then worked for 9 years teaching literature and languages in a school. But it was during this time he realized God wanted more from him. He felt called to ministry, and so decided to pursue that. He studied theology for 4 years, and then spent another year in spiritual training. Finally, he was ready to be ordained as a priest. But right around this time, something big happened. In 1973, Argentina was taken over by a military dictatorship, and this led to a civil war. At this point, he was given a choice, either leave the priesthood or stay in Argentina and support the poor. He chose the latter. It was very tough for him. He was arrested several times by the secret police and tortured. They would beat him up and then put him in jail for days without food or water. But even though he went through all of this, he still refused to give up his beliefs. He eventually became Bishop of Buenos Aires and then the Cardinal of Argentina. But what we're interested in today is what his life was like before he gave up everything for the church. You see, despite the fact he was tortured, abused, and beaten, he never forgot about the good things in life. When he was younger, he loved going out with his friends to eat delicious steaks and drink some wine. He also enjoyed reading books about history and politics. But perhaps his greatest love was soccer. He was such a big fan that he supported the local team, San Lorenzo. Even while he was in prison, he wouldn't miss a match if he could help it. There was only one problem, though. While he was in prison, he couldn't afford to buy tickets, so he would listen to the radio commentary while hiding in a bathroom. But that doesn't mean he didn't treat himself once in a while. After all, he did have a pretty high position within the Catholic Church, so every once in a while he would splurge and get himself a luxury car. For example, he had a 2008 Mercedes-Benz C230. It wasn't worth that much, but to him it must have felt like $1 million. But what about houses? Well, he had a simple home in Buenos Aires. It was nothing fancy, but it had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It was quite spacious, too, with a total of 240 square meters. But that wasn't enough for him. He also had a vacation house in a richer neighborhood. It was much smaller than his main house, but it was definitely nicer. But let's be honest here. Those are rookie numbers. We all know someone who lives in a mansion and drives a Lamborghini and claims to be poor. But this guy truly lived a poor life. Sure, he wasn't driving a Toyota Corolla or anything, but he wasn't driving a Bentley either. As far as food goes, he ate whatever was cheap. Most people think popes get to eat caviar and drink vintage wine, but that isn't true. He preferred to eat plain food like rice, beans, and chicken. He wasn't picky and would always finish everything on his plate. As you can imagine, he wasn't much of a partier. He didn't like to go out drinking or dancing. He preferred to stay at home and read or watch TV. In fact, he was quite the homebody and rarely went out unless it was necessary. When he did go out, though, he liked to walk instead of taking a car. And if he did take a car, it was always a public transportation system. He never took taxis, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he believed in using public transportation. He was known for being a very frugal person. He always made sure to turn off the lights when he left a room and recycle whenever possible. He even used the same cell phone for over 10 years. That's right. Here's a man who could afford any luxury item in the world, yet he preferred to live a simple life. You might think that someone like him would have a lot of enemies, but you'd be wrong. He was loved by everyone, especially the poor and sick. He would always make time for them and never turned anyone away. But what about money? Well, he didn't care about it at all. He was perfectly happy with his salary as a cardinal and never asked for more. In fact, he didn't even keep any of his salary. Instead, he donated it all to charity. He was actually quite generous and would often give away his own clothes to the poor. He also gave away most of his vacation pay and only kept enough for a simple vacation. Many people believe he was born poor, but that wasn't true. His family was middle class and he had everything he needed. However, he chose to live a simple life. He could have easily become a rich man by investing his money, but he never did. He was happy living in a small house and driving an old car. He didn't need much to be happy. He was content with his life and never complained. He was known for being a very humble person. He didn't act like he was better than anyone else and always made sure to help those in need. He was always willing to lend a listening ear and never judged anyone. He was loved by everyone, not because he was a cardinal, but because he was a kind and compassionate person. And now, here's a question for you. Would you trade your life with his? Let us know in the comments below. And, as you can see, he's not the type of man to hold a grudge. He understands that everyone makes mistakes and that we all deserve a second chance. He knew how important family was because he had seen firsthand what happened when families were torn apart. During the Civil War, he saw many families get separated, and he never wanted that to happen to anyone. He always made sure to visit his family whenever he could, and he never complained when they came to visit him. He knew that they were risking their own safety by visiting him, and he appreciated it. He also understood the importance of forgiveness. He forgave the soldiers who tortured him and the government that persecuted him. He knew that holding on to anger and hatred would only hurt him. He believed that everyone deserved to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter what they had done. He also believed that everyone had the potential for good, and he tried to bring out the best in everyone he met. He was the type of person who never gave up on anyone. He knew that everyone struggled at times, and he was always willing to help. He was the type of person who never let his circumstances define him. He could have easily become bitter and jaded, but he never did. He always maintained his sense of humor and his optimism. He was the type of person who always saw the good in people and never gave up on them. He was the type of person who always forgave and never held a grudge. He was the type of person who always remained humble and never forgot where he came from. So the next time you see a homeless person or someone who is struggling, remember that they are a child of God and treat them with the dignity and respect they deserve. And that's all for today. If you want to learn more about the life of Pope Francis, stay tuned for more updates.